Hi there, I'm Maris. My husband was dying and yes, I cheated. He found out, and then he was gone. My daughter hasn't spoken to me since. People think I'm a monster, but they don't know what it was like living in that house, carrying that weight alone. And now? They've all cut me out like I never existed. But is that really the whole story? Would you have done anything differently? The smell of bacon lingered in the air, but I barely noticed it. The morning sun stretched across Tanner's kitchen, making everything look softer than it was. He handed me coffee without asking how I wanted it. He knew. There was something comforting about that. Familiar. Easy. I haven't thought about Calvin in days, I remember telling myself. Not with pride, not with guilt. Just stating a fact. And no, I didn't feel bad. Not really. Not anymore. 16 years ago, I married a man I thought was the best decision of my life. Calvin was kind, grounded, gentle in a way that made me feel safe. Then safety turned into silence. Then silence turned into stillness. And then I stopped looking forward to coming home. When the symptoms started, subtle twitches in his hands, slurred speech, I told myself it was stress. When the diagnosis came, everything stopped. ALS, no cure, just waiting. He changed. Or maybe I did. Or maybe the world tilted under both of us at once. Being his wife turned into being his nurse. His condition advanced faster than the doctors predicted. He lost his strength. I lost my identity. He became obsessed with vitamins, charts, YouTube cures. I became invisible. Then Tanner appeared by accident like a breeze through a cracked window. He worked in marketing, younger, sharper, careless in a way that made me feel alive again. He made me laugh. That felt like a miracle. It started with glances, then lunches, then hotel rooms. At first I told myself it was a phase, a way to breathe, an escape, not a betrayal. But Calvin wasn't stupid. He found the texts, the receipts. He sat me down with trembling hands and asked, "Can we try therapy?" I told him no. He cried. I didn't. "I need a life that isn't just your shadow," I said. I left that night with one suitcase. He didn't stop me. I think that's when something inside him cracked. Rowan stayed with him. She said she didn't want to leave her dad alone. I didn't argue. She was 16 and too smart for her age. Or maybe I had just become too small in her eyes. He texted me for weeks. Long, desperate messages. One of them said, "I can't breathe without you." I read it, and then I deleted it again and again. Then came the call. It was Rowan. Her voice was shredded, barely forming words. "Mom, I found him. In the garage." I froze. She cried harder. "He's not breathing. I don't know what to do." I didn't flinch. I said, "This isn't my fault. You need to call 911. Then I hung up. The silence after was deafening. I sat on Tanner's couch and stared at the blank TV screen like it might offer a different ending. Outside, sirens cried in the distance, barely audible, like something from another life. I made myself coffee. My hand didn't shake. It wasn't supposed to end like that, but it's not my fault. It never was. My phone lit up again. 3 words from Rowan. "You did this." I didn't reply. The sun was still out when I pulled into the grocery store parking lot. I didn't get out. I just sat there. Engine off. Hands in my lap. A cart rolled past my window and tapped the bumper. I didn't even blink. 10 seconds. That's all it took. 10 seconds between my daughter's breathless sobs and me deciding to end the call. "This isn't my fault," I said, and hung up. There was no panic, no pause. I just did it. Then walked inside Tanner's apartment like I'd forgotten to pick up milk. She was 16. She'd figure it out. I told myself that. That night, I didn't sleep. I didn't cry. I stared at the ceiling while Tanner snored quietly beside me, oblivious to the quiet sirens that moved through the city like whispers. The next day, the call came. Official this time. Calvin was gone. I didn't ask how. I didn't ask if Rowan was okay. Judith picked her up from the hospital. My mother didn't call me. She didn't need to. The silence between us had grown roots. Calvin's body was being prepped for the funeral. Rowan didn't want me there. I considered honoring that, briefly. "Go," Tanner said. "Let them hate you to your face. It's better than hiding." I didn't answer him. I just stared at the invitation like it was written in a language I couldn't read anymore. I didn't want to mourn him. I wanted this chapter to end, but I went. Late. I wore black. Tanner drove. I didn't ask him to come, but he dressed like a man who didn't expect to be liked. We pulled up to the church. Brick walls, ivy strangling the window edges, cars everywhere. My pulse was steady, but something cold had rooted in my chest. Inside, the room was packed. It smelled like old wood and grief. The air was too thick to breathe. We walked in together. I held his hand. That was my mistake. The moment people turned, I saw their faces twist. Their eyes didn't blink. Whispers bloomed instantly. She brought him? Now? That's her? The one who... Rowan was seated in the second pew beside Judith. When she turned and saw me, she didn't blink either. She stood up and walked straight down the aisle. She didn't yell, didn't curse, just walked out like the room wasn't worth her breath. I wanted to chase her, but I didn't. I took a seat in the very back. Calvin's sister turned around and gave me a look that could blister paint. Judith didn't even move. I couldn't tell if she was praying or just trying not to explode. The casket sat open at the front. I didn't look. I couldn't. Afterward, Tanner and I didn't speak until we got to the car. I stared straight ahead, my hands and fists against my thighs. He cleared his throat. That was intense. I nodded. My eyes were fixed on the rearview mirror, but she was already gone. It wasn't the funeral that buried us. That came later. A week after the funeral, the air in Tanner's apartment still smelled like lavender detergent and unresolved tension. I sat cross-legged on the couch, thumbing through social media posts I shouldn't have looked at. The community didn't name me, not directly, but I saw the phrases. Some people grieve like actors. Her poor daughter. Let's not forget who was already moved on before the casket even closed. Tanner walked past, coffee in hand, pretending not to see what I was reading. He set the mug down and said, "You showed up. That's more than most people do." I looked at him. "Do you believe that?" He didn't answer, just turned and went to the sink. The morning of the funeral, I had stood in the doorway, coat on, keys in hand, ready to back out. Tanner leaned against the wall, arms crossed, wearing that casual confidence that always felt too composed. "You're not the villain here, Maris," he said. "You have every right to be seen." "Seen by who?" I asked. "By the people who think I killed him?" He smiled, almost cruelly. "People will talk either way. Give them a reason." I let him lead me in that day. I let him hold my hand like it was his right. I let him make me believe showing up was some kind of strength. Now I wasn't so sure. I sent Rowan a message the next day. Just a few words. "If you ever want to talk, I'm here." It was marked read. Nothing more. Then Judith called. "I should have left him out of it," I said before she even began. "You shouldn't have come," she answered. "You made a spectacle of something sacred." I closed my eyes. "I didn't mean to hurt her." "You keep saying that," she said, "and it keeps meaning less." Tanner overheard. When I hung up, he said, "She's blaming me now?" "No," I said quietly. "They're blaming me for bringing you." "They should be blaming him for dying then," he snapped. I didn't correct him. I just said, "Maybe I did drag you into this. Maybe I needed a witness more than a partner." That night, my phone lit up like wildfire. Dozens of texts, missed calls, a link someone sent me with 3 words. "You need this." I clicked. It was a voicemail. My voice. The one I'd left for Rowan 3 days earlier, recorded without knowing. I started calm, asking her to talk to me, saying I missed her, wanted to fix things. Then I lost it. In the middle of the recording, I broke. The audio captured it all. Every sharp breath, every bitter word. "You think I abandoned you? You think he was some kind of saint? He was already gone, Rowan. I just admitted it first." By the end, my voice had flattened into something cold, dismissive, detached. The file had gone viral. Students at her school were reposting it. The comment section was a battlefield. No wonder her dad gave up. She sounds like she never cared. "This is who you left her with?" I sat frozen. My voice echoed back at me like a stranger's. Tanner came in from the kitchen. "What's going on?" he asked. I handed him the phone. He listened without saying anything, face unreadable. When it ended, he just said, "That's not a good look." I felt the heat rush to my face. "I'm being crucified for surviving," I snapped. He raised his hands in surrender. "I didn't say you deserved it." "No, but you didn't say I didn't either." He left the room. I sank back into the couch, the quiet pressing down on me harder than the voices ever could. I thought I was handling it, but maybe the truth is, it's handling me. The buzzing wouldn't stop. Notifications poured in like someone had kicked a hornet's nest. Messages, comments, DMs from people I hadn't spoken to in years. I scrolled without reading, just watching the names light up my phone like a fire alarm. They weren't talking about the voicemail anymore. They were talking about Elle. She had posted a statement, long, righteous, wrapped in the kind of performative outrage that spreads like wildfire online. She didn't use my name, but she didn't have to. Everyone knew. I stood by her, she wrote, even when I shouldn't have, even when she started seeing him behind Calvin's back. I told myself she was just tired, but watching her walk into that funeral like she owned grief, that was it. We all have limits. I just found mine. Elle, my best friend, the one who helped me hide, who covered for me, who once told me, whatever you need, I've got you. Now she had me, bleeding, hung out to dry. I called her, straight to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. What could I say? That I was disappointed? That betrayal feels worse when it comes from the people who used to whisper the same lies with you? I wanted to scream, but my throat had been dry for days. Tanner came home and found me curled up on the couch, phone in hand, eyes glassy. You okay? He asked. I stared at the wall. Would it matter if I wasn't? He said nothing, just sat beside me in silence, like the guilt was contagious. The next morning, I sent Rowan a package, some of her dad's books, an old hoodie, a picture she drew in 3rd grade. It came back 2 days later, unopened, no note. Judith had blocked me. Phone, email, everything. I was being erased piece by piece. 16 years ago, I would have never imagined this. A family held together by duty, broken apart by truth. But that night, something shifted, just not in me. Rowan went back to the old house. I didn't know until later. She didn't tell anyone, just slipped in to grab a few things. Probably a sweater, maybe a notebook. Instead, she found it. A folded piece of paper, hidden between the pages of Calvin's copy of Mice and Men. His handwriting still steady, still deliberate. The words short, honest, final. I wasn't enough. I hope she finds peace. Take care of Rowan. He hadn't left it for her. Or maybe he had. Maybe he knew I would hide it. I told myself I didn't share it because she was too young, because it would only make things worse, because she didn't need more weight to carry. But the truth? I didn't want her to see that he blamed himself. I wanted her to blame me just a little less. She read it in silence, didn't cry, didn't yell. She just took out her phone and snapped a photo. She didn't post it, didn't message me. But something shifted in her eyes, harder than anger, colder than grief. She had answers now. And I felt it, like a storm rolling in across dry land. Something was coming. I thought the worst had already happened. But I was wrong. That part hadn't even started. It was almost midnight when the ping hit. Just one sound, clean, sharp, like glass cracking under tension. I sat alone at the kitchen table, wine gone warm, half of me wishing Tanner would come back out of the bedroom and say something, anything. I refreshed the screen, a new blog post, Rowan's. The title stopped my breath. His final words. I clicked. There it was. Calvin's suicide note. Every word preserved like a final confession. No edits, no embellishments. Just the truth I buried in a drawer and hoped time would erase. Underneath the letter, Rowan had written one sentence. The truth was hidden. Here it is. I scrolled through the comments before I could stop myself. They came in waves, accusations, sympathy, judgment, rage. Monster! She let him die. She didn't even cry. Who shows up at a funeral with the guy they cheated with? I hope she loses everything. I closed the laptop. The air felt heavier now, like it was pushing down on my chest. I could still hear Calvin's voice when he first handed me that letter, weeks before he used a rope to finish his sentence. I hope she finds peace. I hadn't. Tanner found me in the same position an hour later. I didn't even notice he was there until he said, "Maybe it's time to go offline." I didn't lie, I whispered. I protected her from it. "Maybe that's not how she sees it," he said. The restraint in his voice stung more than if he had yelled. The next day I messaged Rowan. No more avoiding, No more hoping someone else would fix it. Please, just coffee, just you and me. She agreed, surprisingly. But only at a park. Neutral ground, no cameras, no public performance. She arrived 10 minutes late, hoodie up, hands jammed in her sleeves. She didn't sit, just stood near the bench while I talked. I didn't bring him up to replace your dad, I began. Tanner, he's been here, through the worst of it. She blinked slowly, like I wasn't even speaking English. I want you to meet him, I said. I know it's a lot, but maybe we could rebuild something. Her eyes never left mine, but her face didn't shift, not even once. When I finished, she nodded once. Not yes, not no, just acknowledgement. Then she turned and walked away. I sat there a long time after she left, long enough for the sun to drop below the trees and for the cold to find my skin. Later that night, I reread Calvin's note for the 100th time. I wasn't enough. I hope she finds peace. Take care of Rowan. I folded the paper again, slower this time, like maybe that would change the words. You hoped for peace, I whispered, but I brought war. My phone buzzed on the table. One message, one word, no. The message came in just before noon. A single sentence from Rowan. Fine, I'll meet him. I reread it 3 times. Not because I didn't understand, but because I didn't believe it. After everything, she said yes. Hope is a dangerous thing. It sneaks in through the cracks, even when you've sworn the windows shut. I spent the rest of that afternoon planning. I picked the restaurant, quiet, out of the way, neutral ground. I booked a table near the back. I even called ahead to ask they not seat us near families with children. I couldn't bear the noise. I needed this to go right. I told Tanner. He didn't smile. He barely looked up. You sure this is smart? He asked. She's giving us a chance, I said. We'd be idiots not to take it. She's not giving me anything, he muttered, walking away. Still, he came, dressed like someone trying not to look like he was trying, pressed shirt, clean shave, no cologne. I appreciated the effort. Rowan showed up 10 minutes late. No apology, just slid into the booth across from me and nodded once. Hi, I said, voice too bright. Thanks for coming. She looked at Tanner, then at me. Let's skip the bullshit. I froze. She turned to Tanner. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. You're not him. You never will be. And you're a fool for thinking you could fill his place. Tanner blinked, but didn't respond. She turned back to me. You think this is about rebuilding? Starting again? No, this is about you needing to feel in control. As always. I opened my mouth. She stood before I could speak. Don't ever ask me to pretend again. She walked out. No dramatics, no raised voice. Just clean, efficient annihilation. I sat there, breath stuck in my chest. Tanner stared down at the table, his knuckles white. The drive home was silent. I tried to explain. She's just angry. She didn't mean it. He kept his eyes on the road. She meant every word. She's grieving. So are you, he said, voice like glass. But you don't get to bleed all over people and call it healing. Back at the apartment, he packed a bag. I didn't stop him. He slept on the couch. I didn't sleep at all. The next morning he was gone. No note. Just the faint scent of his aftershave on the pillow. I found him 2 hours later, stuffing his things into a cardboard box at his office. You could have said goodbye, I whispered. He looked up. Goodbye implies I'm coming back. I stepped forward. So that's it? One bad night and you're out? It wasn't one night, Maris, he said. It was months of being the guy who mops up after your mess, and I'm tired of being your cautionary tale. I opened my mouth. He held up a hand. You need to figure yourself out before you drag anyone else in. Then he walked past me without looking back. That night I sat in the living room, the silence so loud it hummed. I poured myself a drink I didn't want and stared at the blank TV screen. Then I pulled out my phone. One old voicemail, still saved. Calvin's voice just days before the end. You say you want freedom, he said, his voice frayed at the edges. But you're building your own cage. I listened to it twice. Then I deleted it and whispered, Then let me burn the whole thing down. The clink of keys on the counter broke the silence before the sun did. I came out of the bedroom barefoot, still in yesterday's clothes, hair tangled, breath stale with regret. Tanner was zipping the last bag. He didn't say goodbye. Didn't even glance at me. Just closed the drawer, stood straight, and walked toward the door like the place had never held him. On the table, next to the empty fruit bowl, was a folded sheet of paper. The crease was so sharp it looked cut by a blade. I opened it with fingers that barely felt like mine. You needed a partner. I needed clarity. Neither of us got what we came for. This is not redemption. It's release. No name, no sign-off. Just a blank page underneath, like he'd said all he had to say. I didn't chase him. I didn't cry. I walked through the apartment like it belonged to someone I didn't know. My eyes landed on the dent in the couch where he always sat. The coffee mug he never used but wouldn't let me throw away. The framed photo of me and Rowan from 5 years ago, tucked behind an unopened envelope. I touched things just to make sure I was still real. I had wanted freedom. But all I got was this, an empty house echoing with the ghosts of the choices I made. The knock at the door came just after sunset, sharp, unapologetic. I opened it. Rowan stood there in a black hoodie, backpack over one shoulder, eyes like polished steel. I hadn't seen her in person since the funeral. She looked taller, older, tired in the way only truth can age you. You came, I breathed. She didn't blink. Don't get it twisted. I'm not here to forgive you. I nodded. I knew better than to expect kindness. I want you to hear what it did to me, she said, and I want to say it to your face. I stepped back. She entered without hesitation. We sat on opposite ends of the couch. The silence between us stretched like smoke. She didn't rush. Neither did I. Finally, she spoke. When Dad got sick, I watched him become someone else. I watched you become someone else. But I stayed the same. I had to be strong for both of you. I swallowed. I know. No, you don't. Her voice was firm. You left. You gave up. And when I needed one parent to stay, you made sure it wasn't you. I nodded, letting the words land. I had no defense, just a throat full of glass. You didn't kill him, she said, but you made it easier for him to stop fighting. Silence again. Then I asked, and what about you? She stared at me a long time, then said quieter, I'm still deciding. She stood, walked to the door, then paused, reached into her bag and pulled out a photo. She left it on the table. It was old, worn at the edges. Her and Calvin, hand in hand, faces tilted to the sun, frozen in a moment that would never happen again. The door shut behind her without a word. I picked up the photo, holding it like it might crumble. I used to think I'd lost everything. But maybe this was just the first reckoning. The photo was still on the table. I hadn't touched it since Rowan left, her and Calvin, smiling, holding hands, frozen in a moment I couldn't go back to, but it looked at me, all day, all night, like it knew something I didn't. She didn't forgive me, I whispered, staring at it, but she didn't destroy me either. That scares me more. That kind of silence, the one that holds its breath, is always a warning. The storm doesn't announce itself with thunder. It waits. Later that afternoon, I sat on the floor of our old guest room, digging through Calvin's boxes. I told myself I was just organizing, just cleaning. The truth? I wanted something. I didn't know what until I found it. An email draft, saved, half-written. To Mitchell and Harding, LP subject, divorce inquiry. No greeting, no signature, just the outline of intent. He'd been ready to leave me, ready to walk. Before the diagnosis, he never sent it. He stayed. For Rowan, not for me. So you weren't the saint either, I said out loud, the words sour on my tongue. But it didn't feel like revenge. It felt like another truth that made everything murkier, less sharp, more unbearable. I shut the laptop and left the house. I didn't even grab my keys. I walked to the bar 2 blocks over, the one with sticky tables and forgettable lighting. I needed to forget something. I didn't care what. That's when I saw them, Tanner and her. He was laughing, actually laughing, something I hadn't heard in weeks. She leaned against him, her hand on his arm like she belonged there. Blonde, maybe mid-20s, the kind of girl who orders vodka sodas and uses words like manifest. I stopped at the entrance. He didn't see me at first. When he did, he didn't jump or explain, just looked at me, nodded once, like this was all normal, like I had no right to feel anything about it. I turned to leave. My feet were already moving when I heard her voice. "Hey, Maris. Didn't recognize you without control." I stopped, turned back. Cassidy. Of course it was. My former intern. The girl who once cried in my office because someone left her off a team email. The one I taught how to negotiate salary, how to speak up in meetings, how to read a room. Now she was sitting in a bar with my ex-lover, smirking like she'd won a prize. "I guess we all outgrow our mentors, huh?" Tanner didn't say a word. He didn't stop her. He didn't even look ashamed. I left without responding. Anything I said would have made me smaller. The walk home felt longer than it should have. My ears rang. My vision tunneled. At the door, I stood still for a moment, hand on the knob. "They always said karma would catch up," I whispered, "but they never said it would wear my face." Inside, I grabbed my phone, deleted Cassidy's number. Then I took the photo off the table, the one Rowan left me, and I lit it on the stove. Watched it curl and blacken. Watched Calvin's smile vanish in smoke. Then I opened my laptop. My hands hovered over the keys, and I started to write. Title: The Woman Everyone Loves to Hate. Rain tapped the windows like it had nowhere else to be. I lay in bed longer than usual. No rush, no noise, no weight on the other side of the mattress. The air felt still, no expectations left to choke me. I rolled over and checked my phone. Nothing. No missed calls, no voicemails, no firestorm of public outrage, just silence. And for the first time, I didn't want to outrun it. I made coffee, sat by the window, watched the world carry on without me. Someone walked their dog in a bright yellow slicker. A teenager biked through puddles like they were racetracks. Life, somehow, continued. I wandered through the apartment like a stranger in someone else's life. My fingers grazed the edges of Calvin's old books. I noticed the spot where Tanner used to leave his keys, the couch cushion he flattened every night, the drawer I used to keep full of Rowan's childhood crafts, now nearly empty. Every corner held something I burned, broke, or buried. I wanted love, I whispered, but I demanded escape. That's what it was, wasn't it? Escape. From sickness, from guilt, from the mundane grief of being forgotten in someone else's survival story. I had flailed so hard for oxygen I didn't realize I was drowning everyone around me. My phone buzzed. A text. Just one. From Rowan. He used to smell like cedar and coffee. I forgot that until I opened the box. Thank you. No signature, no emoji, no sign of what came next. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't peace. But it was something. I stared at the screen for a long time before locking it and setting it face down on the table. In the bedroom, I opened the last drawer. Inside were scraps of the past I had no right to hold on to. Calvin's letter, a Polaroid of us before the illness, one of Rowan's crayon drawings from second grade, a house, a stick figure family, all four of us, smiling. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just placed everything into a small cedar box and closed the lid. No locks, just gravity. Some memories deserve a lid. The rain had stopped when I stepped outside. The ground shimmered like glass under the gray sky. My neighbor, Mr. Holman, was hauling groceries up the steps. He waved. I waved back. It wasn't a reconciliation. It wasn't a new beginning. But it was a step. There won't be a clean ending, I whispered as I stepped into the wet light. But I'll take a beginning that doesn't pretend. I locked the door behind me. Then I turned, face tilted toward the light breaking through the clouds. It's not over, but it's mine now. Some endings don't come with forgiveness. Some wounds don't close the way we want them to. And maybe that's okay. Looking back, I realize now, healing doesn't always look like a hug or a reunion. Sometimes it's a quiet morning, a breath without panic, the courage to keep going even when the world has already moved on. If you're standing at the edge of something broken, grief, betrayal, silence, I hope you know this. Survival isn't selfish. Growth doesn't need permission. And peace? It's rarely loud. So tell me, have you ever had to let go without getting closure? Have you ever rebuilt from the ruins with no applause? Drop a 1 in the comments if this story hit a nerve. Or tell me where you're watching from. If you didn't like the video, tell me why. I genuinely want to hear it. And hey, If you're into stories that don't sugarcoat life but still reach for the light, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one.